for meeting with me last week. I think we had a very productive discussion. I want to go back to the president's illegal and unconstitutional executive order to fire people across government and his allowing unelected billionaire Elon Musk's Doge to have the illegal privilege to carry out these mass firings. You mentioned that the way it's supposed to work at VA is that there's probably an SCS who should review all of these and to make sure that people are not being fired from critical positions. I will tell you that last week, the VA did fire people from the Veterans Crisis Hotline, the 24/7 hotline where veterans who are thinking of harming themselves, who are in crisis, can call. And my office has personally spoken to some of those folks who were laid off. So let's pause for a moment to think about this. The Veterans Crisis Line is where veterans turn when they're considering suicide or self-harm. The public servants answering the phones are doing some of the toughest work imaginable to support people who serve their country in their absolute darkest hour. Now, after I raised these cases to the VA and spoke out about them, it sounds like, thankfully, the VA is attempting to rehire some of these employees this morning, but we shouldn't even be in this position. Will you commit to reviewing how the VA what the process the VA engaged in firing those 1,000 employees last week and any future firings to make sure that this process that you talked about supposedly being the ideal process is actually happening as opposed to what has already happened?
Yes, Senator. Yes, Senator. If confirmed, I will review, especially with the crisis hotline, how that came about and what it should inform us if or when future layoffs are done.
Thank you. I will also tell you I have read the letters that they received, the emails that they received, and it contained no information about any of their benefits, their leave days, their health care benefits. Some of these employees were pregnant who would lose their health care. And so I'm deeply concerned that the letters were so indiscriminate and also did not provide people with information on what their next steps are, and they were immediately locked out of their employment systems. I think that we owe the veteran community transparent answers and accountability without excuses or finger pointing. After this news broke, my office almost immediately began receiving phone calls from veterans, not just from Illinois, but also across the country, who have been in federal service across different agencies for years. So these are long-term federal employees, not probationary, they've been in long-term employees for years. And they raised my concern that veterans who use their veterans preference in their hiring for their positions are coded by OPM as probationary. And they have been wrongfully caught up in this egregious mass firing sweep. When veterans use veterans preference in the hiring process, OPM codes them, may code them as probationary, even if they are long-term federal employees. And so individuals can also be coded as probationary if they have recently been promoted. So they're still in the same agency, but they were just promoted to a new position, but they're coded as probationary. These veterans with years of federal service should not have been fired. Some of the people from the crisis hotline that we spoke to, had 18 years of federal service, 5 years of federal service. They should not have been fired. Dr. Lawrence, I know that I do not need to remind you that veterans make up 30% of the federal workforce. They are the most patriotic people in our nation. They served in uniform, and many turn around and choose to continue to serve in federal government, especially at VA. We talked about the VA's mission. It's on the wall. It is the clearest mission of any federal agency. Yet the Trump administration, filled with some of the most disloyal oligarchs of our time, who egregiously invoke the theme of patriotism to camouflage their anti-democratic agenda, has disrespected these veterans' dedicated and enduring service to our nation. If confirmed, will you both publicly and privately call on President Trump and Elon Musk to immediately investigate this catastrophic oversight error in terms of firing veterans who are coded as probationary, even though they're long-term government employees, and rehire these employees who are so wrongfully and disrespectfully fired? And will you push the Trump administration to exercise transparency and accountability for federal employees?
Thank you for that. Thank you for that question, Senator, and for clarifying the OPM process. If confirmed, I will look into that process to better understand how it affects veterans. And based on what I determine, I'm happy to share with you and the Secretary, and then figure out a course of action going forward to correct it.
Thank you. Would you carry out an illegal or unconstitutional order under the direction of President Trump or Elon Musk?
Thank you for the question. No, Senator.
Thank you.